The rental market in Toronto is just as tricky as any other market. There are a ton of things to consider and understand when you're trying to find a place for rent. This video is going to be the ultimate guide to renting a property in Ontario. And make sure to stick around till the end because I have some tips that you may not have considered. Happy Monday, my name is Vik and I'm a realtor here in Toronto in the GTA, and I help people buy, sell, and rent real estate. I want to thank you for being here, and if you learned anything today, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like. As always, if you have any questions about what we're talking about today or anything else in regards to real estate, you can click the first link in the description to book a call with me at a time that works for you. I'm also going to be including a bunch of free resources about rentals so you can review them on your own time. Now let's jump into the video. There are 10 steps in the rental process. There's also going to be a bonus tip at the end that you may have never considered before. Okay, so step 1, find an agent. It's not a super wide known fact that realtors do rentals because even in my own videos I say buy and sell real estate, but we have a significant enough market here in Toronto that a lot of agents do rentals. I also want you to treat this process like a teaser for when you're ready to buy your first property because the process is pretty much the same. For an agent, actually, almost the same amount of work goes into a rental as it does for when we're working with the buyer client. In terms of commission, we also get paid from the landlord. So our service is free to the tenant. So why work with an agent in the first place? There's a ton of reasons to work with an agent, but the two main reasons you want to consider working with an agent are experience and protection. Experienced agents will always add value to your search when you're trying to find a place to rent. They should know all the numbers. What's the average rent in the area? What are the utility costs? Does the building have rent control? What's the general demographic? So these are just some of the ways they're gonna add value to when you're trying to find a place to rent. Now, when it comes to protection, the agent is gonna do their best to protect your rights as a tenant. A lot of the times when you're working without an agent, landlords will try to sneak in clauses in your lease that are gonna go against your rights as a tenant in Ontario. Your agent should be up to date with the Residential Tenancies Act in Ontario. So I'll give you some examples. Things like random inspections, they're not allowed. Or you have to move out because the landlord is selling the property. That's a very common one that I get as well, and that's called a bad faith eviction, also not allowed. Rent increases. So a lot of people don't know that they're protected against rent increases up to a certain amount. So there's a ton of things landlords try to get away with. The list is long, but the bottom line is work with an agent who's experienced and who will protect you. One of the biggest benefits to you as well is the job doesn't end once the deal is done. You will have access to your agent for life. You can reach out whenever you think your landlord is violating your rights as a tenant. Working with an agent just makes the entire process that much more professional and easier for you in the long run. Step 2, learn the process. Okay, so you found the agent you want to work with, and now you're ready to start the process of renting. You and your agent first need to go through the entire process of renting from start to finish. Cover things like, what does qualification look like? The documents you're going to be responsible for providing. What documents are you going to be signing when you're working with a realtor? What does the offer process look like? What are your rights as a tenant? There's a lot to cover. This is the point where you should be asking all your questions and doubts. It's actually what you're doing right now. You're learning the process right now from start to finish. So great job, you're ahead of the game. Step number 3, get qualified. This is one of the most important steps of the whole process. Before you're out looking at properties, you need to get qualified. Now, what does this look like? First off, there's 5 documents that you need to provide. A rental application, a photo ID, job letter, 3 pay stubs, and a credit report. These are going to be considered as your supporting documents, and they're going to be attached to the offer when it's submitted. Your landlord needs to have confidence in you as a tenant by reviewing your history. Now, if for some reason your supporting documents show that your history isn't great, then you might want to consider getting a guarantor. If you need to get a guarantor to make your application stronger, then they also need to provide the same documents as I mentioned before. When you're trying to qualify yourself, you're also going to figure out when you want to move and how much you can afford. This is where you'll also be doing your monthly numbers. So how much can you really afford to rent? So there are 3 costs that you have to be aware of. Your monthly rent amount, your utilities. So depending on the property that you're trying to get, some utilities might be included, some might not be included. So the 4 utilities you have to look at are hydro, gas, water, and internet. And the third monthly cost you have to consider is your tenant's insurance. This is usually not too expensive, but something you need to have to protect yourself, and you have to add into your cost for your monthly amount. And finally, add in your own personal liabilities. If you have any other high loans or high expenses, you have to factor those in. And then you'll have a final number on what you can afford. So boom, qualification is done, all our ducks are in a row, and we are organized and ready to go. Step 4, start your search. All right, so you figured out how much you can afford, and now it's time to look at listings that fit your budget and your personal criteria. So look at bedrooms, number of bathrooms, parking, area, and so forth. One tip that I'll give you when you're looking at listings, make sure you're looking at the utilities. If some or all utilities are included, then your monthly budget for the rental amount can go up and you can get a nicer place. Step number 5. View the properties. You've narrowed down your favorite properties, and now it's time to go out there and start showings. Treat this process super seriously. Look out for any damages there already may be and address them with the landlord's agent before putting the offer in. If you need parking or locker, then go to the parking spot and go to the locker. Figure out how far they are from the entrance. Look for any water leaks and make sure all the appliances are in working order. You don't want to move in and find out something isn't working or there's a leak and wait for the landlord to fix it. So make sure when you're on your showing appointments, you're very, very thorough. Step number 6, prepare the offer. All right. So we found the property we love, and now it's time to submit the offer and send it off. The offer is going to have a few standard components to it, such as when does the lease start, how much is the deposit, which utilities are you responsible for, and the clauses. The clauses, which is under Form Schedule A, this is going to be your rules that you have to follow when you're living there. This is also the part where protection really comes into play that we talked about earlier. Your realtor shouldn't include any clauses that violate your rights. And if the other realtor has their own set of clauses, then you need to review them before signing the document. Make sure you ask questions wherever you don't understand something. With the offer, you're also going to send your supporting documents, and you're going to give the landlord a time frame to respond with them. This is called the irrevocable period. One tip I can give you here is that your documents need to be super organized. The other realtor and landlord will really appreciate this, and you'll start off on the right foot. I've seen a lot of times as a listing agent for a rental that when the other realtor is not organized, it makes me trust them less. No one should be chasing anyone down for documents. So what I do is I usually put everything in a Google Drive and send a link to the other agent. This is also the point in time where all the negotiations are going to be happening as well. So if there's something you don't agree with, such as a clause or a rental price, this is where you're going to be negotiating all those terms. Step 7, drop the deposit. All right, congratulations. Your offer is accepted, and now you have 24 hours to drop the deposit to the other brokerage. We talk about deposits. There's only 2 deposits that you have to provide. One deposit will be the first and last month's rent, and the second deposit is for the keys. The key deposit is only the cost of replacing the keys and nothing more. There are no other deposits on top of this. So if someone is asking you for a damage deposit or a pet deposit, this does not exist. Once you drop the deposit, the deal is firm and binding. Step 8, utilities and insurance. You're almost there, but before you move into the property, you have to transfer the utilities in your name and you have to provide proof that you've done this. The second thing you need to do is get tenant insurance, and you also have to provide proof of this. Now, tenant insurance is super important because in the event something bad happens while you're living there, you're protected. So these 2 last steps are vital to get done before you move in. Step 9, moving day. All right, so at the end of the process, it's closing day and you get to pick up the keys. Once you pick up the keys, go through the unit one more time before you start moving your things in. If there's any new damage, you can let the landlord know to fix it or start the process of fixing it. This way, you're not on the hook for any of it. Also, make sure when you're moving in that you book the service elevator. This is another thing that people forget and it delays your move-in process. Step 10, end of tenancy. So if you are on a 1-year lease, which most people will be, and are planning to move out at the end of the tenancy, then you have to provide a written 60-day notice to your landlord when you want to move out. In this time, the landlord's allowed to put the property up for lease and allow showings to occur in the property. They have to give you 24 hours notice, and showings must take place at a reasonable time, which is between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So you can't just have showings within a 1 hour notice and at 11 p.m. at night. If you decide to not end the tenancy, then you're automatically converted into a month-to-month tenancy agreement. The notice to leave here does not change, and you still have to give them a 60-day written notice. So those are the 10 steps, but here's the bonus tip that I promised. Do a virtual meeting with your landlord and get to know them. I don't know why, but people don't want to get to know their landlord. You need to know if they're a good fit for you as well. So ask some questions. How long have they owned the property? How was their last experience with the last tenant? What are their plans for the future? Who will you deal with for repairs? Sometimes they have a property manager or the realtor will take care of it, but you need that clear line of communication. And overall, it just helps to be on good terms with your landlord. All right, so as you can see, a lot goes into rental. But with the right support, you can cover all your bases. A realtor will make the process easy, professional, and legal. That's the video for this week. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. And enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one.